Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being here, for subscribing, for commenting, for giving us your points of view, for bringing up other ancillary information, additional information to the topics that we put out there. We appreciate it. We certainly do. And then we would ask you, if you're watching us or joining us for the very first time, please do subscribe and hit that thumbs up. It would be greatly appreciated. How much trouble is your pension or future pension in? You know what? For many of you, it's far more than you think. So let's talk about that. All right, for those of you that are new to the channel, my name's Mike. I'm a retired American expat living in the Philippines for 10 years now with my wife, Arlen. We are married. We've known each other for, 12 years. You don't need to know a whole lot more about us. We've got plenty of other videos, and you've got that. How much trouble could you be in? So I think before we really get down to the nuts and bolts, I'm going to say this. Many of you will not like this video. Many of you will argue about this video. Many of you will be upset to hear the information in this video. But all of the research that went into this came from highly reputable sources, including, let me just go down the list, the Hoover Institute, the Stanford Economic Policy Research Center, the Pew Research Center, the Harvard School of Economics, all right, the Chicago School of Business. The list goes on. I really don't need to go. You can look up all of what we're talking about, and you'll find it is 100% spot on until it comes to the opinions. And opinions, well, they're just opinions. But that being said, there are millions and millions and millions of people that need to recognize. And for those of you, for those of you that are not Americans, or for those of you that are Americans but aren't fully understanding the entire pension scheme, retirement scheme in the U.S., let me make some brief comments very quickly. First off, Social Security is a federal pension system. In other words, it's guaranteed by the government to the rules that are current today. And that's a key issue, number one. Number two, Americans fund their retirement. Either it's part of their salary compensation figured in, and on top of that, their W-2 taxable wage is automatically withdrawn. We put in. Number three, we are told repeatedly over and over again, Social Security was never intended to be your means of replacing an income when you retire. It's a supplement to your retirement, your supposed retirement savings. And finally, not everybody had the ability to save and avail themselves of other things. Now, pensions are then divided. You've got federal, you've got state, you've got county, you've got local governments, all right, with defined benefit plans. And there's big differences between a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan, like a 401k. You have instances where, for a perfect example, you could have been in the military and you're going to get a defined benefit. You're going to get X percent of this at this point for the rest of your life. In addition to that, you contributed to Social Security while you were in the military. So you're going to get that on top of it. And then the government, actually, the The military, the VA system, they have what's called thrift plans, which are very similar to 401ks. But the difference is they're federally guaranteed, they're federally administered. Then you've got state and local governments. And here's the bottom line when it comes to that. Greed and corruption. You see, rather than participate in a plan that the federal plans, these local states, and I'm going to give you some examples, all right, through greed and corruption, they have their own state pension plans, okay? They run them, they take care of them and everything else. Well, what happens? It's a state plan. You're in no trouble. You're going to be retiring. You are retired. You're receiving your benefit plan. Well, let me tell you, here's the first thing. State and local government pension plans have faced difficulties and even failed. In fact, years ago, an entire state had to declare bankruptcy. Now, the federal government stepped in when this happened. I can't remember which state this was. Maybe somebody can protect me, remind me in the comments below. All right, the federal government's Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, the PBGC, insures private pensions, 401ks. State and local pensions are not covered. In other words, there's no insurance for that. I know that in this particular state, for some reason, it was a Midwestern state. For some reason, I can't remember which one, and I'm not going to try and figure it out. But what happened was the state went bankrupt, and so did the pension plan. So with that being said, the government did step in, and it took years to get the state restructured and bankruptcy court and everything that goes along with it. And nobody got 100% of their money back. Nobody at all got money plus interest. And in turn, it was a big disaster. So the U.S. federal government does have rules and restrictions to fund managers and things like that. But how bad is it really now? Why am I talking about it now? Well, more than 20 million Americans are covered by state and local government pensions. Unlike the 401k plans found in private sector, these defined benefit plans promise to pay retirees a set amount of money every month for the rest of their life. And I will tell you, there are fewer and fewer and fewer defined benefit plans. And there's a big difference between a defined contribution plan and a defined benefit plan. These are not so much old-fashioned as they've been abused, number one. Number two, there's no guarantee of what they're going to be able to do. The corruption involved in these plans, and this goes for private plans that aren't even state and local, such as union plans that are administered by unions but are overseen by the state, all right, or under the regulations of the state. But the state doesn't do shit, all right? I mean, if you're in a union and you elect Scooby-Doo as your president, and Scooby-Doo has a brother who's a hedge fund manager, and he's decided that, we're going to take 20% of our money and we're going to put it in that hedge fund because my brother does a great job. Well, first off, he's not even going to tell people publicly that's his brother or his cousin or his wife's brother's sister's nephew, whatever, all right? But by their own reckoning, they're underfunded currently to the tune of $1.6 trillion, and that is not actually the real number. The shortfall will leave them 75% funded, which may not sound dire, but that figure is vastly understates the issue. The Stanford Graduate School of Business, who leads the Hoover Institute State of Local Government Initiative, this guy, who's a senior fellow at the Stanford Institute, estimates that the unfunded pension liabilities, the gap between promised benefits and the assets set aside to pay those benefits, is somewhere around 5.1 trillion. All right. And the way that they did this, this is a great study. And if you want to look it up, you can go to their website. They gathered data on the pensions of every state, as well as 170 of the biggest cities, 100 of the biggest counties in the U.S. Their sample covers 90% of the public pension funds from 2014 to 2022. Now, they released this information in 2023, and it has some caveats in the fact that, pandemic had some impacts, but nothing that significant. So what did we really end up with? Well, here's the real thing. Nationwide analysis from Equitable Institute, which does all and everything when it comes to finance of these types of things, reveals that the Illinois state pensions remain fiscally unstable. And that is just a very, very nice diplomatic way of saying that they need systematic reform. It is horrible where they're at. And if they don't fix it, they're going to have to do this and that. For instance, Illinois has already shut down their defined benefit plan. It's now a defined contribution plan. And that's a different tier. There's different parts and pieces. I'm not going to go into the details because it's just going to bore you. This may not be interesting enough for you to even be here now. But you could be at big trouble because here's the nationwide map. Now, anything that falls below 80% is at risk. These percentages show state governments, states, that their assets to obligations ratio, only a few of them have assets more than their obligations. Some of them have assets in the 90% range, which was very good, but it still isn't 100%, right? But you look at some of these other places like Illinois at 52%. That means almost half of what they owe, they don't even have. All right. And you can freeze this video, take a look at your state, and then take a look at what's going on. But what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about greed and corruption. We as Americans, we have been beat up from our first days of getting a job that we have to save and use our money to put aside things. What about Social Security, you're saying? Well, I put away money into Social Security. Yes, you did. And yes, you may still be doing so. But those rules are subject to change. It's already predicted. I think 2034, they're going to have a major shortfall. They're going to have to make some adjustments. Now, my opinion, and just an opinion, okay? They're not going to change anything to the people that are retired, already receiving Social Security, and or are within, 5 years of retirement. That would be political suicide. And we all know politics in America is what runs, or money is what runs politics. Okay? And they are thieves. I mean, I could talk about other countries and other things and how the problems are, but we have to admit that our politicians are greedy, and just the regular people are greedy. Now, I'm not taking a side, blue, red, Republican, Democrat, nothing like that. I'm just saying it is the nature of the beast. So we've been beat up since the first day we went to work that we have to save money for our retirement. And sometimes people bitch and complain that Americans have too much retirement money. Most of them don't recognize it's money that actually came out of our paychecks where we didn't even have a choice. Now, I do look at other countries. There are some other countries where their Social Security, all right, or their old age pensions are means tested. So, for instance, if Bezos turns 66 and decides to collect Social Security, he's going to get every penny of the money he's put aside for the qualifications that he meets. In some countries, they would look at his assets, all right, and they would say, no, that's not going to work. Now, to be honest with you, he could be like Musk, who owns very little. Everything that he is valued at, the vast majority of it is his stock. And how that would work in means testing in different countries is a whole different story. But we may see means testing. It's been bandied about a couple of times. It's one of those things. We may see where early retirement will shift from 62 to 65. Retirement will shift from 66 and a half to 70, 72. All right. I mean, these numbers are already out there for, you can extend retirement to 72. You can start at 66 and a half or 62. You can do all of those things. But it's, what the politicians are afraid of is the baby boomers, people like me. We still vote. Even though I live in the Philippines, I still vote. Okay? I believe that every person has an obligation to vote. With that being said, all right, they know they're going to have to wait, and they're going to have to sit there and say, you know what? It's going to be the younger generations that are going to make these changes, and we've got to give them time. So you may see some changes that have 10-year horizons. You may see issues where the government's just going to print more money to fund its shortfalls until those remedies come into effect. So Social Security is not a sacred cow, not by any way, shape, or means. Oh, I've got my green cup. The green screen really, it does look kind of weird, doesn't it? Now, the other problem, however, is how quickly these state, local governments, and private institutions are reaching insolvency. This is not like Social Security, and the government is not going to step in very willingly to bail some of these out. The government just doesn't have the money here in the United States to do that. Are they going to bail these out? Now, I'm going to also say this. I have an extensive background when it comes to defined benefit pensions. All right. I had a defined benefit plan. I built it from the ground up. I used managers. I used fund experts. I did everything in my major private practice. Okay. And I had to learn a lot. And what I learned was real simple. The government doesn't give a shit, number one. Number two, the loopholes for greed, they're just nuts. Absolutely nuts. And that's, if you are interested in that, let me know and I will do a video about it explaining exactly how bad it was and what I saw over my career. Um, it was really significant. Otherwise, look, if you're in a state that's under, say, 80%, okay? Where'd my map go? Here it is. If you're in a state that's fast approaching 80%, I mean, California, I think that's an understatement at 81%. I really and truly do. I think they're in far worse situation than they know because the demographics of people are changing. You know, people are retiring. They're getting older. There are not as many in that workforce. But if you're in a state that's in the low 80s, you're at risk. If you're in a state that's under 80%, you're at high risk. And if you're in a state that's in the 50s or 60s, you could quite possibly be getting screwed soon. And that's going to have a major impact on your retirement, whether it's the Philippines, whether it's Thailand, whether it's, you're going to retire to Ireland, wherever. It doesn't matter. It's going to have a huge impact. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you a part of a private pension plan? Do you expect that it will never change, that the obligation is there and it's going to be completely funded? All right? Are you aware of what's going on? Does it bother you? All right? Do you see enough news coverage about this in the United States? I don't see much coverage, to be honest with you, in the mainstream news. I see occasionally, there's an article here, article there. There's the fear-mongering stuff of Social Security. But when it comes to these private pension plans and the trillions of dollars at stake here, where do we go? I'm not saying that America has the best pension retirement system. I'm not saying that any country does. What I am saying is we have a good system if we could get the greed and the corruption out. I mean, they have in Australia, they have superannuation. There are multiple instances of fund managers doing supers that have fled with people's money. There are examples in the UK of people that have charged exorbitant amount of fees and made tons of money with minimal returns, if not even losses. I mean, it's worldwide. It really and truly is. I don't think anybody has the perfect position here. I really don't. But I do believe that this is, if expats are going to worry about anything, they should worry about their health and their money. We're not getting any younger, and we're not out there making a living any longer. Or we're planning on exiting the workforce. So we should worry about it. It should be a topic of concern, and it should be something that people are well aware of. I don't know. You let me know. Tell me in the comments. Please do subscribe. Hit that thumbs up. If you found this interesting, we would certainly appreciate it. We hope you have a great, safe day.